How's it going, everybody? We are live from the Hive. This is Team Shard Bugs. I am Kevin, aka Kevmo, your community manager, and I am on video right now with our creator and owner of Shard Bugs, Mr. Lewis Silva.
How's it
And
going,
we have an
everybody?
exciting episode today here for
We
you
are
guys,
live
where
from
we
the
are going to
Hive. This
answer
is Team
community
Shard
questions from
Bugs.
you
I
guys.
am Kevin,
We have a
aka
handful of
Kevmo,
questions from
and
the
I am
community
on
Discord
video right
server,
now with
in which
our
people have asked some
creator
questions
and
for the
owner of
team to
Shard
answer.
Bugs,
But
Mr.
more
Lewis Silva.
importantly,
How's
we
it
are
going,
going to be
everybody?
answering plenty of questions from
We
the
are
live
live from the
chat
Hive. This is
down
Team
there.
Shard
So make
Bugs.
sure you guys
I
answer
am
your
Kevin,
or
aka
ask your
Kevmo,
questions because
and
at the
I
end of the
am
episode,
on
for
video
all
right
those
now
people who
with
have asked
our
a question in the live
creator
chat
and
that we
owner of Shard
answered
Bugs, Mr.
live
Lewis
on the
Silva.
stream,
How's it
you
going,
will have your
everybody?
names
Plenty of
entered
questions
into
from
a
the live
community
chat.
raffle at
Down
the end
there. So
here
make sure you guys
for your
answer
chance to
your
win
or
a
ask your questions
official
because
Shardbugs
at the
playmat.
end of the episode,
And
Hey, we got
these
some
are people
echo
who
there
have asked
saying
a
in the
question in the
chat.
live
Let's see if
chat
we
that
can
we
fix that.
answered live on the
Uh-oh.
stream. You will have your names entered into a
test
community
test.
raffle
Mic check.
at the end here
Make sure you guys
for
answer
your chance to
your.
win. Can you guys hear okay?
What about now? Can you guys still hear me?
Did we get rid of that echo? Okay.
All right.
I think we're okay.
Can you guys hear my mic pretty good? Okay. All right. I think we're good. We're safe.
Cool. All right. Let's rewind this one more time. Take two. Okay. So for everybody who is, it says echo on Kev's side. I think it's let's see, I got my feedback from my microphone here, headset. Oh, audio source. Okay.
Test, test. Is
Yeah,
that
I think
better?
that's better now.
Okay. That was on me.
Much better. Cool. Sorry,
There
guys.
we go.
Professional setup here.
Taking this back one more time now. Are you ready, Lewis?
We're good.
Okay. All that
Take 3.
practice here. So, hello, everybody. We are finally here. Got everything set up. Got the kinks worked out here with the audio. One more time, real quick. This is the second live from the Hive Q&A video with Team Shardbugs. I am Kevin, aka Kevmo, the community manager for the Shardbugs team, and I am on the stream right now live with Louis Silva, the owner and creator of Shardbugs. And we are here because we want to do Q&A videos on a somewhat regular basis for the community to answer questions that all of you guys have regarding the Shardbugs team, the game, kind of future plans that we have for all this stuff. Maybe get us to spill some beans. We'll see.
We'll see.
But on this stream, we're going to be taking some questions from the community server. We had a handful of people asking some questions in there, posting in the channel that we have specifically for asking the devs some questions to be answered, as well as more importantly and more excitedly, we're going to be answering some questions that you commenters have live in the chat. So go ahead and put your questions down live in the chat because we're going to be picking some of those questions and asking them live on the stream. And if your question is asked live on the stream, you'll be entered into a raffle to win a really cool, super sweet Shardbugs playmat, which I don't know if many people have seen them yet because they are some of the first
I'm gonna
playmats
flash it now, Kev.
that are coming
Let's
out.
see.
Uh-oh. Lewis is flashing something, so we're gonna see this Shardbugs playmat. Look at that. That's sweet. That's super cool. So, like I said, you guys will have your names going on in a raffle for all those who get their question asked from the live chat, and you will win one of those super sweet playmats. So, like I said, go ahead and post your questions down below in the chat. Otherwise, we are going to go ahead and get started. So, hey, everybody, how's it going? How's it going, Lewis? How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine. It's a fine Sunday for a chat. I appreciate everyone's time who's watching it live and in the future. Hello, future folks as well. And yeah, just excited to kind of give some updates on how we're doing and how the project is progressing and answer any questions that the Hive might have.
Yeah. So should we go ahead and start it off with the questions that we have from the server?
Yeah, let's start out with the Discord stuff. Let's get warmed up.
Warmed up a little bit. All right. We already have some people asking some questions here in the live chat. So let me go ahead and get our questions that we have from the Discord server. Just a reminder, these questions will not get you entered into the drawing, but a lot of these are from some of the people that are not able to make it onto the live chat. But we do want to make sure that we answer these questions. So we have one from REG. REG is asking, they're looking forward a year or two. What would success look like for shard bugs, and what might failure look like in terms of the business, the community, for us personally? So kind of a success-based question here.
Yeah.
I'll leave that one to you, sir.
Um, I like that question a lot. Actually, appreciate that. I think I'm grading me personally. I'm grading success maybe a little bit differently than you would think. I'm grading the success of like us, the team, right? The development team, the art team, Shardbugs as a company. So I'm not really seeing, or I'm not really checking success in terms of dollar figures. How much sales do we have? How many boxes do we sell? I'm grading success on when we make a promise or when we have a deadline. Are we making our deadlines? Is our art up to par? Are we following through and are able to attend the cons that we set a goal for ourselves to attend? Are we able to onboard the amount of LGSs that I'm looking to onboard? So I'm looking at a mirror when I'm looking for grading success because ultimately we developed a game that I feel is fun, and it seems like many other folks that have tried it also think it's fun. So I think the game's there, right? You're gonna like it or you're not gonna like it, but at the end of the day, it's more on the success of the company is a reflection on how we're performing as the development team. Um,
There you go. Great answer. All right. We had a follow-up question from REG as well. This is the Silva method. REG says, looking for some advice. He's mentioned that he's using the same method for shard bugs as he has used to form teams to build and run some of his other businesses. They're hoping that you can give some insight and possibly some advice into the process of finding, choosing, and bringing people on board to all your various types of companies and teams.
mhm.
So yeah, share some of your wise words of wisdom there.
Sure, sure. I think like I've said in the past, Shard Bugs is my sixth company, and in any of my previous ventures, it kind of starts obviously with a business plan. I mean, that's like the first step of any business, which is involving studying the market, finding a niche, and kind of coming up with a game plan to kind of execute on what you're trying to do. But in all of my companies that thank God have all been doing well and are currently doing well. Um, it's really about building a team. And as a person, one person, I always say I can't manage it all and I can't do it all. I have my own skill sets and I lack in other skill sets. So part of the success of any of my business ventures and the success of Shardbugs is surrounding myself with folks that complement the skill sets that I lack, and I'm a little bit picky on who joins the team because ultimately a team is as strong as the weakest link, so to speak. So I have high standards on myself. I view myself with high standards in what I'm doing and what I'm contributing to the team. And when I bring folks on, I make sure it's through good studying that person for a while. And lots of my members that are in my team, if I've invited just from seeing them and how they're performing, and other aspects that they're doing stuff in. So yeah, so I mean, team building is the success of any good company. But then you have to back that up with good standardization. So whether it's in my one of my various construction companies, farm that I have, this game is find out what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, document everything, the whole process, and then put structures in place to keep things repetitive. If we make a decision and the decision panned out not to be great, notate that so that we don't make the same mistake twice. If we do make a decision that pans out to do well, notate that and say, okay, that's the way to go. And I suppose that's kind of business 101 and pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's a great question, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can definitely say from my experience on the Shardbugs team so far, you have put together a very solid team. Um,
Yeah,
I feel like we have kind of this little family unit, and I think that's one of the biggest things as well. I mean, I'm saying this from an outside perspective. Obviously, I don't have a team myself, but just feeling like you're part of a big family um, goes a long way. Where everybody works together, kind of brings their own strengths and complements each other, like you said. But more importantly, just gets along and trusts each other, and can sort of complement each other, like you said. So yeah, at least
absolutely.
that's my insight there. So let's see. We have a couple more from the server, and then we'll move on to some of these live chat questions. We have one from Lunar Just Free. Will there potentially be an Eldrazi equivalent threat in the Shardbugs TCG world? So, for
Ooh,
all those who might not know what that reference is, Eldrazi is sort of this Magic the Gathering reference to this giant, almost Thanos. If you're looking at Marvel, Thanos world threat, something that's threatening the overall um, universe of this IP. So, yeah, do we have anything coming in the world of Shardbugs that would be this giant threat to the world of the Shardbugs?
so, yeah, that's a really good question, and we'll give them a little bit of beans here. Um,
Okay.
just a few. So Shardbugs is a TCG, but we are supporting the TCG with a really rich lore through development of a series of comic books. I'm hoping to put out about 4 to 6 comics per year is our goal. Um, the first issues are already kind of live, if you will. We have a YouTube video on our YouTube channel that you can hear an audiobook, great narration of it, and visually see the comic. We actually have 2 other comic books that are running in conjunction now in development. And I have thought out now 17 sets. So the beginning set and an additional 16 that should probably last about 7 years worth of content. And the reason why I've kind of looked out that far is you kind of have to, if you're looking for like a long term vision, like like I am and we are as a team. And in the development of the story, there are kind of big threats, if you will. We're dealing with bugs, right? But we're also dealing with cosmic influences. So there may be some other cosmic level threats, obviously, that we're going to introduce to Shardbucks, which will be fun. But I'm gonna spill one bean, and it's gonna be for set two.
Ooh.
And I know Juice is gonna hate me for this, but I
Where's
think
that
it's
mute button?
exciting because I think it's gonna show the folks that we're kind of serious and long term planning and developing and expanding the game. So we're actually developing basically like a PVE player versus environment. It could be a single player versus an environment, or it could be a co-op of players versus this environment. And in that game play style, there'll be a kind of a big threat versus the player. And we hoped as we kind of progress the storyline, there'll be different big bad threats that come out, and you'll have to build your bug army and kind of vanquish these foes. So yes,
Little few beans there. Uh, all right, so we're gonna kind of finish up the last of these here. We have um,
Question from Will Jackson. So the three precons right now, all those cards in the precons are shown in the image gallery and can be played on uh, Tabletop Simulator. Let's see. So the set one coming out, sorry, I didn't scope this question first. So fair to say the best is still yet to be seen in the booster boxes. So they're asking about the precons that we have
Hmm.
live on the Tabletop Simulator. Are we expecting to see cards that are, let's see, this was a little hard to, I'll skip this one for last. I'm sorry, Will. So let's move over to Cloth Moth Enthusiast here.
Okay.
Let's see. They said, can we expect to see any tie-ins between cards in set and the comics? And whether that be promos tied to the comics or just the cards that have stories or spotlight
Mhm.
mentions within the comic book universe. So it looks like they're kind of mentioning sort of that tie-in that Magic the Gathering had, where certain cards have artwork that is depicting sort of the lore and the story.
Mhm.
So is there going to be kind of a tie-in between different promos or cards that we have in the main sets that kind of throw this mention or homage to some of the comic book lore?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of the intent of the comic book series. Is to create a lore to which we can extrapolate content to use for the or for the TCG game. So if you look at, let's just talk about the precons, and we'll have to kind of keep it within the confines of just the characters we've introduced in the precons. Um, there's some bugs that are a little bit generic in their naming. Let's say, like the Black Ranger ants. They're just kind of a type of bugs that exist in the Luna lines. There are some bugs that actually specifically have a name. Everyone already knows, say Dave Swiftfoot. And then we have Suki the Elder. Um, just know that if a bug character has a name, it's most likely that it stems from them being probably an important part in either a current comic or most likely a future comic to come. Um, so yeah, so look out for named characters in the TCG to come from the comic book lore. Also, the comic books themselves are illustrated by really talented artists, and we are kind of doing double duty in some of the art assets that have been developed into the comic books. You'll probably see some of those comic assets into the actual TCG. Usually because it's like either a fun character and a great pose, or a nice piece of scenery that we feel could be a great support card. So we are going to actually extrapolate scenes from the comic and make them into cards as well.
Hmm. That kind of goes into the second part of this question that Clothmoth asked. Are we thinking of possibly incorporating any sort of cool treatments for the cards meshing together in any way, sort of like a panoramic
Hmm.
effect
Okay,
like
this
we've seen in
question.
other games?
Yeah, I kind of already let it be known in the Discord. If you're part of our Discord, you may have seen my teaser, if you will. Um, but it's an interesting question because having kind of panoramic cards that if you put them side by side, or maybe if you put them in a 3x3 9 slot binder, could possibly create a whole scenery or a comic page. And yes, I'd definitely love to do that. We've had the intent since like inception of the game and inception of creating the comic book theme, if you will, of being able to maybe take a whole really cool scene and a whole page and kind of make them into a cohesive panoramic card collection, if you will. We wouldn't be the first to do it. Marvel has done it, and they're if you're from like me, if you collected them in the '90s, the cards, Marvel cards, lots of times they would, you put several cards together and they would form a scene, if you will. And there's been other card games since that have kind of come up with that idea as well. Even Pokemon. Actually, I went to my local LGS yesterday. Shout out to Mystic Forge, and I picked up. It was a 25th anniversary Pikachu set where you put four cards together and they kind of form a scene. So again, other card games have done it, but I think the fact that we're developing a comic book series to go with our TCG, it just kind of makes sense for us to kind of attempt the idea, so to speak. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been loving the art that we've been putting out, especially those super sweet promos. And so
Oh
I
yeah,
think people's minds are kind of racing on what other surprises we might have for them. So we're all artists in our own way, and we all love, some of these really cool special treatments or special artworks that we see in all these other TCGs. And while we want to make sure that we're original and unique in our own way, there's just some things that we're really big fans of that we might, you know, consider for some things, I think, if that's okay to say.
absolutely.
Um, so we had a couple people saying that it sounds like my mic is coming through two mics and getting some phase cancellation. I checked all the things on my end,
Okay.
um,
Well,
but
let me hop in. That I got the chat view here, so I can read off a
okay.
couple of questions
Can I
myself.
can
Let
I
me just kind
do
of scroll up in the history and pick out in
okay?
order as I see them. Um, we got a question here from Joey. Shout out to Joey. What sparked the very initial idea of shard bugs? I should know by now and apologize for not. No, no worries. No need to apologize. I think we did touch bases on it last Q&A, but we'll go into it. My oldest daughter, Isabella, she's 16 now, and a couple of years ago, we're kind of a whole TCG family. My wife, my kids, and we collect various of different TCGs together and play. Um, she's an artist, a budding artist. She's been drawing since she's been old enough to hold a pencil, and she's come a long way. She's very talented, and one day she kind of came up with she came up to me with her Apple iPad and showed me like 4 or 5 illustrations, like fully developed illustrations with the character and the whole card frame and everything. And I said, well, what's this? And she goes, oh, it's an idea for a card game with like insects and bugs and all that, which is great because also as a family we like nature, and when we can we go to uh, all the zoos and parks we can go to. And so I said, hey, this is a really good idea, and I loved it so much. And she showed it to me right at the point where I had a gut feeling of trying to develop my own PCG game as well. So I said, "Hey, let's kind of run with this idea." So I did not come up with the idea. Basically, was come up with my oldest daughter, and she said, "Yeah, I would love for you to kind of run with this idea and develop it further." So shout out to my oldest daughter Isabella for a fantastic idea.
Yeah. So
So let's
we
see here. I got
we
one
have another.
from Aaron Advance, and it says,
Yeah.
"How did you organize the sets? Are they tied into the comic story? I.e., you have an African Beetle themed set. You also have a story arc and a comic that takes place in Africa, stars Beetle. So yeah, how did I come up with the sets? Um, some of the sets are themed around a certain environment, because insects kind of different insects do come in different environments, right? And be hard for me to kind of specify a certain environment without leaking too much beans. And then some sets are based around maybe a real geographical region on Earth. Some sets are based on a specific subtype of um, class of bugs, meaning in our world we have mages and warriors, um, and clerics and paladins and the like. Some sets might play heavy into a specific type of bug type, if you will, bug subtype, um, without spilling too many beans. And the comic books will explain the kind of the sets. That's the whole point. So our set number 2 is highly based off. the very next comic that we're going to release. So it's based off on one comic. We may have future sets that are based off of 2 or 3 comics put together. So that's how we kind of do that. In terms of the African beetle in Africa, um, I'll have to look into that specific insects, and we have a whole area in our Discord where you can kind of plug in bug photos, and we have another area in our Discord that you can kind of come up with ideas. We love seeing that because obviously, I have a few. One of these shelves, I have a few insect inspiration books, if you will. But there's literally tens of thousands of species of bugs, and sometimes we've been seeing some really cool, really beautiful, very scary, really creepy, really outrageous designed bugs that are real life insects. And all of our bugs that we develop are based off a real life insect. So we love getting ideas from the community.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to some of the things that we might see in future sets without spilling any beans on my set on my end. But yeah, we have big plans, big plans.
Really.
So the next question comes from um, Sir Fish Slayer.
Mhm.
Where the Will there ever be other? They say gods, but I'm assuming they're asking about
Cosmic
avatars,
avatars, right?
or is this it, the three that we have forever? So I think we talked about this on the first video, but for
Hmm.
those who are just joining us today, yeah, go ahead and expand on what your plans might be for the current avatars and any future plans we might have.
Yeah. So this is old um beans, if you will. We'll restate it though, unless you're hearing it for the first time.
We'll reheat the
Um,
beans.
we currently have 3 alliances, and each alliance is tied into a color. There will be other alliances added, so there will be other colors to kind of explore and what their play styles may bring. And with that, there will also be other cosmic avatars. And I also have a plan where even the existing alliances might have a different cosmic avatar kind of come into the story, if you will. So, for example, we have Mars. He is the cosmic avatar for the Meteor Alliance. Some future sets may bring a different cosmic avatar that might take the helm for that same alliance, and we'll kind of switch up the play styles and what each deck can kind of bring to the table, so to speak.
All right. Yeah, there's a. I don't think this is much of a bean, but there, I believe, was some images of the back of the original cards that you had those three
Hmm.
dots, and
Yeah.
then since then those have been
So with
removed.
that, I don't actually. I do have an example. Let me just show. This is
There
part
you
of the
go.
whole development process. Um, so you guys know about these 4 promos, right? Here we have the lovely moth of the peppered flame. And in this original idea, we did have the 3 alliances in their color hexagons in the back of the card. Um, but since then, in our new development, when we came out with the sample packs, you'll notice on the sample packs for those who have received them or seen them, we've actually eliminated the 3 colors from the back. One, I think it kind of cleans up the design a little bit, makes it a little more iconic, but it also is going to allow us to venture into different colors and different alliances. So that development actually influenced card art.
There you go. I think I posted a picture in one of the questions in the question channel with just a picture of the card, and basically alluded to there's a reason why we removed the dots. So there you go. Answers that.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Haas Thrift.
Mhm.
How developed is the lore, and who develops the lore, and what is the plans that we have in the future for the comic book or graphic novel or podcast, etc., that focuses on the lore? So, um, yeah, kind of a lore based
Yeah.
question there.
So what I will say is, I think that's one of my personal favorite things to contribute to our development team is actually um, working with Zip. Zip was our first artist that I brought into the game. Zip is basically very talented artist, but specifically he's a comic book artist. So when I brought him to the team and kind of working with him, I learned. Some of you who may know me from other TCG communities know that I like creative writing, so I like writing lore. So I already have a kind of knack and itch to world build and write stories. The only thing I had to do is adapt that to be able to go from, say, a short story into a comic script. So once I got a hang on kind of writing in the comic script style, I've been developing all of the lore for the game myself, and I think going forward I will continue to do that. So I kind of um, hope to kind of write out the story in full myself. Um, who knows? I might bring in some creative writer and maybe bounce ideas off of them and whatnot. But so far, I've been doing the contribution to that, and I'm loving it. And how developed is it? Well, like we kind of answered that earlier. We have 17 sets planned out, so I had a little bit of free time on a few weekends, and I just went nuts on the keyboard. And now doesn't
Just a
mean I
little bit.
have all 17 scripts written. I have thematically thought of these 17 sets. I have the first six comics actually written out all the way. And then we'll continue to develop the other ones as time progresses.
Yeah, just a little look into the back end of the inner workings. There was one day that I remember Lewis just started bombarding us with posts in one of the dev channels, and all of a sudden posted all these posts regarding lore and future set plans and stuff. And we all loved it, but it was definitely a surprise where you ended up with all those sets ahead of time, and we were very impressed with how much free time you had that day
Mhm.
to work on that. But very cool stuff.
Yeah.
I gotta say. So we have another question by Tim Fendre. Hope
Mhm.
I'm not butchering names here. I'm sorry, but Tim is asking, how would you like to engage LGSs to support this game?
Cool. Yeah. Um, we are going to give LGSs lots of support. LGSs have kind of like a soft spot in my heart, so to speak. I've been going to LGSs, man, since like OG Pokemon, right? Where you had to get the little book and stamp all the gyms that you won and all that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've been going and frequenting LGSs all my childhood and even in my adult life. And I know that LGS is basically the direct bloodline of the game. The you know I I want to support LGSs um wholeheartedly, not just saying hey we support LGSs. We already come up with some ideas on how that could look like. So once we have product in hand, pre Kickstarter and during the Kickstarter campaign, we're going to do an LGS tour. um, the first LGS tour will be specifically in Florida. That sounds maybe a little bit, might be sounding a little bit odd to some of you, but it's kind of taking a page from the Flesh and Blood development, where they, I believe they're in New Zealand, and they kind of had a foothold there, if you will, and then they went kind of international. Um, so most of our developers, as well as myself, we live in Florida, and I think Florida is a real big TCG mecca. Um, Obviously, the whole U.S. is probably one of the largest trading card game markets, if you will, in the world. Obviously, there's other hotspots like Japan and some places in Europe and whatnot. But even specifically within the U.S. market, there's like three big states that come to mind where the trading card game is buzzing, if you will. Not to use bug
You
puns.
you know what you
Um,
did there.
which we can. We're a bug game, so we can use those puns. So Florida comes to mind. Florida is real big into TCGs. There's actually a whole bunch of indie games that have come from Florida. Um, Texas is also a hotspot for TCGs in California, and obviously you guys here watching the video come from all over the U.S. or maybe even internationally and say, "Yeah, there's card games where I'm at too." Yes, But what we want to do is we want to understand, um, we understand our capabilities as a small team and as a startup company. And if I can create a whole tour in Florida and onboard, say, the first 20 stores, I'd love to do that. And what the goal is, as soon as that is done under our belt, we'll take a greater US tour. And then from there, maybe fly internationally. Um, the We're gonna handpick kind of 20 LGS stores in Florida. We're gonna interview them, show up to their shops, pitch the game, and I'm actually going to give them product on consignment. Zero risk to them. They don't have to pay a penny up front. Sounds a little crazy, but I am slightly crazy, which is fine. This game is very radical, and the way we're developing it is a little bit different from some other indies. And for some of you who may have not heard it, we're actually 100% self-funded and 100% developed, and to the point where when we start Kickstarter, we will have the first edition print run like in hand. Like I will be able to show you the box. Hey, here's the booster box. Here's our pre-con box. So that's how much faith I have in the game and the company, and wanted to kind of show that because some of you who are watching, may come from different indie TCG communities. Some of you may have supported other games via Kickstarter in the past. Unfortunately, in the last couple of years, there have been many games that have gone the Kickstarter route and just never delivered the product. There has been some scams and some rugs and all that. Um, and so the reason why I wanted to develop the game 100% and print the game 100% is twofold: is to show you that the game is going to deliver, right? Because it's already kind of pre-made, and it's also going to hopefully show everyone who's interested in back in the game, back in the Kickstarter, that we know how to, search and recruit fantastic artists, that we know how to, put all the cards together. Obviously, we have the promos and the sample packs to prove that we've gone from concept art, um, playtesting the game, and working with our printers and our manufacturers, and be able to produce a set and actually produce it in a timeline. For example, that's why when we go back to the question about, how am I kind of grading success, we set the Kickstarter date of March 29th many months ago, and looks like all the stars are aligning that doesn't have to be pushed out, which is fantastic. So yeah, we're trying to show that we can develop the game 100%. We can print it. We can go through the whole procedure and land a set when we say we're gonna land it. So it's kind of like proof in the pudding, so to speak. So LGS supports. Yes, we're gonna give them product on consignment, zero risk to them, and we uh, we teamed up with Best Coast Pairings, which is a company that developed a software for when you do events. Say at a store, it does the pairings for you, tracks the winners and all that. But also it tracks each individual person's record for a specific game, but also through you know various games and seasons and leagues and all that. But it also tracks how active a specific LGS is. We're gonna go and in Florida from the 20 that we selected. We're gonna pick the top 10 stores that have been the most active, that have ran the most Shardbugs games, and have big thriving communities. And Shardbugs as a company are gonna gift them a $1,000 prize, cash prize, to do 10 1K tournaments, and we'll run them through a circuit, so they're not on the same day. That way, folks from all of Florida can travel and try to hit those 10 games, and really develop a nice competitive meta, and with some cool prize to support that. And we're doing that so that we can prove we can do it in Florida for the first set, and from there we'll grow through to the rest of the U.S.
And that kind of answers one of the questions that we had in the Discord server from Asmo. They asked, 5 years from now, we're holding the first world championship for
Mhm.
Shardbugs. Where have you chosen to hold it and why? I have a feeling, and many people had a feeling that that was going to be Florida.
Mhm. I'm a little biased. I mean, come on, we're in the Sunshine State, so it's beautiful here, right? You want to come to Florida
There
and
you
play
go.
a big championship. I'll assure you that. Um, I will also say you don't have to wait 5 years. We are already planning a end of year tournament. Yes, here in Florida. Um,
Mhm.
will most likely be in the Charlotte County area, and I'm working with a resort. We are just kind of inking the contract, so to speak. You know, crossing our T's, dotting our I's. But for Shard Bugs, I already planned out at the end of this year, 2025, we're gonna have a 10K tournament here in Florida. So,
There you go. So we have a fun question here from Aaron Avance. They are asking, will we see holiday themed promos or sets? And a follow up, will we see any artwork, uh, whether it's a secret rare or a chase card or a promo featuring art from your daughter's early designs?
ooh,
So I don't
nice.
know how many beans you want to spill on that, but
Um, Man, how much? How many? There's gonna get a big serving of beans tonight, I guess. Um,
they're
so we
hungry.
have actually talked about both of those things already amongst the development team. We've talked about maybe introducing some art from Isabella. Obviously partial to her, right? I'm her father. I would love to see her art on one of her cards. Um, that's as much as I'll say about that. I have the desire for it. We'll see how we can kind of make that happen. In which way does that make sense? And kind of like small themed sets. We've actually talked about that as well. We've already shown we can do it through the sample packs that went out and sold like hotcakes. So I appreciate the community for all the love and support. Um, so I will say that we have a desire to make kind of small probably holiday themed sets. We do have set one already done. We have set two in the works, and we're already kind of poking at set three with some ideas and actual some cards being developed for that. Um, the
No
focus,
beans, no beans.
yeah, the focus is on these bigger sets. So yes, these bigger sets need to have our full attention, especially in the first few years of the game. Um, Do I like the idea of holiday sets? Yes. Will we do them and when? I'm not sure. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that.
You got the person on the mute button coming in. We're getting in trouble here. Spill too
Oh
many
boy,
beans.
making me sweat a little.
um, so we have a couple questions regarding sort of the information around the sets. Looks like where is it here? Uh, we have Kevin Fulton asking about how many boxes do you anticipate people will be needing to purchase for a complete set. So I think that kind of goes into a little bit of how do we plan on allocating the distribution for packs and boxes as far as availability for players.
Hmm,
I'm going to kind of grasp that that's kind of what they're getting into.
sure. So as a small indie, it was really hard for us. And I worked with our production manager Jeeps, who has a lot of experience working with other indies, to say, okay, we have the first set. The first set's going to come in two waves. What's going to be on the Kickstarter is going to be what we call the first edition, and the products like name that again, which will be given out. Um, they will be branded with a first edition little logo. It's actually like a little flat icon, if you will, with the first on it. Um, it was a little bit difficult to say how big of a set to print. Um, Most indies that we've been kind of studying and whatnot, there's kind of like there's two extremes. Obviously we lots of folks in here come from the sorcery community, that did multi-million dollars in revenue and probably produced what 27, 29,000 boxes on the first run. But most indies are not, not that large. They produce anywhere from 1,000 boxes, 2,000 boxes, maybe 5,000 boxes on their first attempt. So the first edition set is capped at 2,000 boxes. We felt like, okay, and we decided on this number 6 months ago, where our community was a lot smaller. We had to set a goal that we feel like we didn't want to overprint. If you ask me now what number of boxes maybe to have run first edition, I would like maybe a little bit more, just from the current feedbacks. But it was hard to kind of gauge that months ago. Um, so that is the print run for the first edition set is 2,000 booster boxes. There's going to be 1,000 pre-con boxes. But since we've developed 100% the beginning set, there'll be some minor tweaks, and minor tweaks meaning probably on the box top brand and whatnot, but not necessarily on the whole the whole set. Um, but shortly after the Kickstarter campaign closes, we are going to do a pre-order for we'll call it the unlimited set of the beginning. So we'll probably put it up on live on our website, and based on the pre-order amount is what we will kind of print. So that'll be a little bit more, if you will, print to demand. So if we hit X, boxes, we'll say, okay, well, we've pre-sold X boxes. We might add a little bit more. We're thinking about 10% to that number, and then we'll hit the print button. So, um, since the first edition's a little bit we'll say on the more limited side, um, all I will say is I would recommend you go to our Kickstarter pre-launch page and click the notify me when it goes live, so that
Mhm.
you have the best chance, if you will, of grabbing one of those first edition boxes when the campaign goes live. But let's say you kind of came in, later. Maybe you learned about shard bugs. You're watching this a few months from now. Um, there'll be another print run of the beginning. It will be kind of based on the what we gauge the pre-order size to be. So that's kind of as much as I can say in terms of the print run for first edition, and yes, we're going to reprint it as well. In terms of how many boxes I think someone needs complete a set, there's two ways of quote unquote complete a set. There's a way to complete a set of getting one card, one of every card, and then some folks, especially the players, want a play set of every card. To get at least one of each card, just from the metrics that I ran, I think you're going to be in the 3 to 5 boxes will get you about 95% there. Um, and then, that's where you'll have to kind of, um, be a part of the community, and might have to kind of trade, if you will. This is a trading card game, and you might swap a few extras of something to grab something you're missing. So that's about what I would think would take to kind of complete a solo run at it, if you will, or get close to it. If you're just trying to open boxes on yourself by yourself.
And that kind of goes a little bit into a question that was asked by Aaron Avance. If we're already in the process of printing it ahead of the Kickstarter, how will we handle it if there's a giant surge in Kickstarter pledges? So
Hmm.
I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what you said, where you want to make sure you're notified by uh, with the Kickstarter when it goes live.
Right.
Are we handling it in sort of a first come first serve, or how are we handling it if we ended up having more Kickstarter pledges than we anticipate? How will that product kind of go out?
Yeah, so the Kickstarter, we have full control on what's going to be sold and how much it can be sold on the Kickstarter. Meaning, we're doing something that to my knowledge, I have not seen done in a trading card game. Meaning, pre-produce product and then sell on a Kickstarter. Um, but because we have that, we can say, okay, we have different tiers. Obviously, like most Kickstarters have, different tiers might have different amounts of say booster boxes and pre-cons and other products. Um, but we basically tell the whole Kickstarter software, we have, this is our cap. This is how much we have. And then when all of those quote unquote tier rewards have been taken up, there's nothing else that can be purchased, and it kind of stops it and caps it there. So there's no real risk of overselling on Kickstarter, if you will, because we have the formula of capping it. Um, not it won't be 100% of the product won't be on Kickstarter. There's like I said, there's 2,000 booster boxes of the first edition. About 1,500 of those boxes are actually going to be offered on the Kickstarter. The other 500 boxes are going to be held back for a few reasons. First and foremost is to make sure that all the folks that pledged on the Kickstarter get their product. So it's not unheard of that a shipment might go missing or be damaged. So we're gonna have some product to be able to make sure we make all of our Kickstarter pledgers whole, if you will. Um, Hopefully, there's not too much of that, and then some of those 500 will be going to these LGS stores that we've talked about. They're gonna get some product on consignment, so they're going to be allocated some product, and then some product are going to go to some content creators to kind of showcase the game and review the game. So that's how the 2,000 box allocation is going to be kind of broken down. Now, for let's say for the unlimited run, right, the reprint, the non first edition, a bug getting set, um, we will see. We will see how much product actually. That's going to really test the real demand we have by April, with our marketing strategy and with the natural progressive growth of the community. If it's a manageable amount of boxes that are sold, we've proven that we can deliver product in a pretty timely manner, and might just go deliver it direct to consumer. If the number gets really big, the beauty of it is, from the time where that happens and we hit print button, there is a couple of months when the product's being produced. If it's a really large number that the demand is for the unlimited run, that's when we'll while the production's being done for the unlimited set, we'll probably engage some distributors to kind of assist in the actual um, shipping part of that. So we'll make sure we're not overwhelmed, but it all depends on what the real number is. Right now, that's kind of an unknown. So
But either way, make sure you hit that notification for when the
absolutely,
Kickstarter goes live, because you guys will have the first chance to get in there for the Kickstarter. So make sure you're signed up. So I have another good question here by Emmett Elric. He's asking, will there be a Kickstarter tier for people interested in being tournament organizers but don't own an LGS? So without revealing too much about our Kickstarter tiers ahead of us listing them, do we have any plans for people who aren't necessarily an LGS but want to support growing the community and kind of being that tournament organizer, who wants something bigger than a personal investment in the Kickstarter,
hmm
but maybe less than an LGS?
yeah. What I'll say is, we do have we'll call it like an LGS level tier, where it's a fair amount of product. Um, that tier will allow you to have booster boxes, numerous of them, and precons and other products. Um, and you do have to have a legitimate retail business to kind of be able to obtain that tier. But the way we structured the allocations of the product, since it's pre-printed, there are tiers and that you can grab at various different amounts, if you will. But there is the ability to have add-ons, so we will have booster boxes and precon boxes. Like say if you pick a specific tier and you're like, hey, this seems like a fair amount, but maybe I want an extra, I don't know, maybe a whole extra case. You can add more booster boxes and precons to your tier pledge, and increase that if you do want to kind of promote the game, which would be fantastic if you wish to do that. So.
Yeah. And like you said, it's starting kind of on the East Coast in the Florida region, but we very much want to, grow this game everywhere, not just across our country, but worldwide. We want bugs everywhere. So we're definitely going to be looking into supporting how to, incentivize people to growing this game, how to get those kind of products out there for people. So I know you're a huge advocate for wanting to grow communities and do a lot of support for that.
Mhm.
So yeah, we got you.
Absolutely. And again, first edition is a little bit on the more limited side. kind of gauging the whole community and where we stand. I believe. But then there'll be another opportunity come shortly after the closing of the Kickstarter to put in whatever kind of size order you'd like to get on the reprint of it. So that definitely will be on the non first edition set print. Will be kind of a more opportune time if you really enjoy the game and kind of want to champion, or if you're an LGS and really would like to get an adequate allocation. Um, on the reprint, definitely will be a great chance for that.
Hmm. So we have a question here by EZ5 Display. They're asking for those that are not in Florida, will there be any print and play availability before the Kickstarter drops? But I'm going to kind of take that as they're asking what sort of ways are we going to have to get this product in people's hands, or just allow them to play the game if they are wanting to play it ahead of either ahead of the Kickstarter or alongside the Kickstarter, just after the Kickstarter, if they're not able to get that physical product in their hands just yet, but they
Mhm.
really want to play, what sort of options are we going to have for people um,
Sure.
to be able to play the game or to be able to get that product in their hand?
What I'll say is there's not really going to be physical product pre Kickstarter aside from the promos and the sample packs that were available and are available. We have basically the pre-cons on our TTS mod. After we deliver the product on the Kickstarter product, and probably delay it by a few days to give people a chance to really crack packs and try to avoid too many spoilers out there, if you will. But shortly after we see product is in hand, we will make the rest of the beginning set available on TTS to be able to play. We don't have a print to play public right now, but I will say from when we decide to open up a pre-order, the pre-order window is probably going to be short. We haven't made the full decision just yet, but it's probably going to be just 2, maybe 3 weeks of a window when we're going to say, okay, you go ahead and order or pre-order for the next print run of the beginning. But since we've 100% developed this game, as soon as we close the pre-order window, we will literally hit print. We will have a quote ready to go. We have all of our processes in place. So there's not going to be any delay. Like, this is the beauty, I think, of Shardbugs and what we're doing is many Kickstarters, there's a game, it has X amount of development. Maybe they fleshed out the whole game. Maybe they haven't done any play testing, but thought about how it should play. Maybe the artwork's only 20% done. And then unfortunately, there's, several months, even a year or more, where that game needs to develop and before they produce product. Since we've already 100% developed this game, it's going to be pre-order window, close pre-order window, hit print button. And from there, it won't be too long before we will be able to deliver on that pre-order. So it's not going to be a real big delay. I would say ballparking 60 to 90 days after the closing of the pre-order window, where you'll actually have cards in hand and be able to play with those cards.
Okay. I have one here from Noble. They were asking if we plan on releasing, and here's another careful in the beans here, but they're asking if we plan on releasing any future products or anything that goes kind of hand in hand with the lore that expands on the lore. So,
Mhm.
other than the comic book that you've already mentioned, do we have anything that we might consider releasing and producing that might help dive into the lore, whether it's the same lore we see in the comic books or kind of expanding on that in other products?
Plushies. No, in all seriousness. We've actually talked about this, I believe, in the last Q&A, so it's not really beans for per se. But we actually are tasking a handful of our artists to create really cool, dynamic character sheets. Where in the TCGs you see, like a still image of, let's say, our friend here, the botfly, right? One of the fan favorites. So that's just a still image of botfly. But we've tasked a group of fantastic animators and artists to say take this character and flesh it out. So we have sheets that has botfly like this, botfly on the ground, botfly. How does botfly look from the back, from the side? You know, what does botfly? What does he like to eat? Where does he? Where does he want to hang out? And we're actually going to take that whole concept and kind of create a little bit for like a D&D type manual or book or character world building guide, um, for no other reason just to immerse you be able to immerse yourself in the whole lore and world of what is shard bugs and what are the characters and um, you know what tools do they make, what clothes do they wear, who are their friends, who are their enemies, that kind of stuff. So we want to do that. um, it's a little bit of a joke that we have within the dev team, where we say we're not gonna stop until you see us on like Netflix or Hulu, and we say that kind of we say that with a little bit of a smirk on our face, but then we look at each other, we're like, wait, can we have sharp books on Netflix or Hulu? And then it's become more like me myself. I'm like, all right, guys, what do we need to do to make that happen, right? So, it's a big dream, it's a big idea, it's a big concept, but yeah, I don't I see the sky's the limit. We're 100% dedicated into the game, the comic, the lore, the story, everything. If there's a chance in the future to kind of create something a little more animated, if you will, would love to see that. Not only will we love to see that, we've already put baby steps, into motion on that. So we'll
Mhm.
see where it takes us.
So we have one here by the Cardboard Addict. They're asking, would you consider workshopping for future story gameplay mechanics? I think what they're asking is something to do with, you know, gaining ideas
Mm-hmm.
from the community. I think with this one, it's safe to say that we do have a channel in the Discord server, the community Discord server, where we have that channel specifically for community members to submit questions. But we also have another one in there to uh, input your own ideas, specifically because we love to hear from. Sorry, I'm kind of taking this
No,
question over just
that's
because I
fine.
can
You're
answer
gonna
this.
say
But
basically what I was gonna
we
say, so you're good.
yeah, so we have a ideas and suggestions channel in there in the community server, and if you have ideas, whether it's a species of bug, your favorite insect that you found out there, a fun mechanic you think is fun, something to do with the game, we love hearing from the community. And though we might not take all of these ideas and actually put them into fruition, we do love seeing sort of where the community's is going and seeing what they might want to see in future sets or future mechanics or future bugs. And some of those things we've seen, and it's kind of gotten the cogs working a little bit. But yeah, we definitely want to be a team that is very um, communicative, transparent, and involved very much in what the community wants or feels, or you know, um, at the end of the day, this is a game for the community and the players. And yeah, so we have a channel dedicated in there for you guys to ask questions or leave your own ideas and stuff like that. And we listen. We see it all. We read all these things, and sometimes we leave little comments. But we love any and all ideas because if worst case scenario, it's going to get us thinking about something, and whether that's something shows up at the next set or set 27 down the road, or you know it's just great to see the community thinking on in these ways. So hope that kind of answers your question, Cardboard Addict, right there.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's see, I think we have time for a couple more, right?
Sure.
um let's see, I think I saw one in here about the Aaron of Vance was at, or okay, Kevin Fulton, here you go. What kind of future sets can we look forward to? So we kind of covered a little bit on this one, but without obviously spilling too many beans. Let's say that their question is asking, um, how are you coming up with the idea of future sets and the themes around these future sets when it comes to the lore? Like, where is your mind going when you're creating these, and what can we kind of give them to look forward to as far as where the creative space will be when we consider what these future sets are going to be?
So what I will say is, it's gonna be real hard not to spill beans here. So I'll have
Yeah,
to kind of,
careful here.
yeah. So hey, Nate, I have a moderator, guys. His name is Mythos here. He's got the mute button ready. No, but I promise I won't really spill too many beans. But what I will say is, in the beginning set, when you open up all the cards and you hopefully put them in little binders and get to appreciate them and throw them in decks, kind of pay attention to each card, because there may be some Easter eggs and some nods on a future set where when you hear the say theme of that future set, you'd be like, oh, that's right, because look at this card where this character is designed a certain type of way. So that's as far as I think I could explain that without actually giving up too much information. But yeah, just kind of going back to a previous question that was very similar to that. Um, we develop characters based off of real world insects. So my job and Nate's job, who's here with us as our game developer, um, we say, okay, well, how do bugs interact in the environment? How do they interact with each other? If these bugs are quote unquote, warrior bugs, if you will, what kind of natural defenses and natural weapons do they have, and how can we play that into um, a set where we get to expand upon a certain maybe group of insects, defense capabilities or offensive capabilities. So that's kind of how we look at that's in terms of its theme. Is where do these bugs live? How can we how can we make them more, let's say, human like, if you will, but what kind of weapons will they use, and how does that assimilate to certain regions or certain types of maybe even cultures of present or past? And I think that's about as much I can get into without getting muted.
I think you handled that one pretty well without spilling too many beans and getting us in trouble here.
All right.
Yeah, just kind of wanted to open it up to kind of where your head is going creatively when you think about
Yeah,
these things.
I found a fun question here. Let me see if I can scroll up to it again.
Yeah.
Here it was. Oh, I see it here. Oh, Pangamo asks, will you get a Shardbugs van for the tour? Um,
Oh no.
People who know me on a personal level know that I like my vehicles, if you will. And it's funny because I was talking to my wife, aka Little Miss. You might see her here in the chat. And I would say 100% her idea though. She already spec'd out, hey, we should get this kind of van and we should decorate it this kind of way, and let's hit the road and start touring. So Shardbug's Mobile is gonna be a thing. So look out for that. So fun question.
That's funny.
We were just talking
Um,
about that too, my wife and I today. Like, oh, we should spec out this van this particular way and
speak,
just take it on a tour.
Speaking of your wife, she's got a question here in the comments. Can we look forward to some sort of mascot costume or
Oh
Sharkbugs
boy.
mascot?
Yeah, it's funny. She asked me that question in real life today, and my answer was only if you wear it, honey. Because no, yeah, I think that would be fun. It's no secret that we're going to not only support LGSs, but we're going to support a convention tour as well. Well, we got the first one is going to be Collecticon Miami slash Fort Lauderdale, and It's actually going to be March 29th. So the same day that the Kickstarter goes live is when we'll be at that convention to showcase the game. We're going to have a pretty dynamic looking booth. And we have other conventions kind of slotted for the rest of the year. So we would love for the display to be fun, right? Um, people dressed up a certain type of way will be pretty.
Uh, so we have one here that we haven't really touched on. I think we might have touched on it in the first video, but I think this is very important for the community because it is a big question we see in a lot of trading card games. Easy5 Display is asking, will there be any banned lists within the first two sets? But let's expand on that and just kind of touch on what your ideas are or what your feelings are behind something like a banned list
Mhm.
or banning cards within sets.
Yeah. Um, we've talked about this in the last Q&A, but I in the last Q&A I basically said I don't like the B word. I don't like banning cards, if you will. Um, and I would much rather see an errata to a card that may be problematic to a meta as opposed to banning it. So our first attempt is if we see a card that that kind of escaped the play testing scrutiny to the point where it may be a little unfun to kind of play against a specific card or a sequence or grouping of cards. Um, Instead of banning something that might be an issue, let's say with a competitive meta, let's see how we can reshape it, rework it, and reprint it in a way that um, that kind of fixes that situation, if you will. So our first attempt is errata first, unless it's really a situation we can't, do much about, and then I suppose we'll have to ban it. Um, so that's kind of how I feel about it. I also don't. I'm not a real big. I'm not really big into kind of set rotations either. Also, I don't really think for the way we're developing the game, it's really necessary because, as we discussed in our previous Q&A, we are shooting for a release schedule of a new set about every fifth month, give or take a couple of weeks. Um, so with that, you'll have some years that will have, let's say, two sets come out. There might be some years where it'll be a third set that comes out. And I think with that level of sets that are introduced, I don't want to see kind of set rotations, and that's something. Who knows? Maybe a decade from now, we're looking back. We're like, hey, we'll have to kind of look at this again, and that might be a thing. But and I feel like there's feel bads for collectors and players, right? We go out of our way to kind of procure and purchase all these cards, and if something gets banned, then it's like, man, what about this beautiful card? It looks fantastic in my binder, but I can't really play it, right? There's feel bads for that. There's feel bads on the collectible side of it too. And there's feel bads for, hey, I love this set. Um, I love, let's say, the whole theme around a certain set that comes out, and I want to play with these cards and develop decks around this specific set or group of sets. Just to kind of see it be rotated out from the current meta seems kind of like feel bads too. Um, at this point in time, we're gonna work really hard to avoid bans, and we're gonna work really hard to avoid set rotation.
Somebody was asking Easy5 Display was asking what kind of bug is that on your screen, the red one.
Oh, okay. Let's see if
That
I can
is
point
the
to it right. Okay, so this little guy here, he is our Ant Warrior token. So there's cards in the first at the beginning that produces these unaligned, let's call them mercenary Ant Warriors. And this little guy is an illustration that was done for that. Up here, we have the Honey Alchemist, done illustrated by AC Faust. You'll see it. It's kind of a staple in the Soul deck. It's a really fun way of interacting with the hive and field and be able to kind of ramp for dust. And then we have over yonder, we have Moth of the Peppered Flame. beautiful piece of art by Alma Fostica, and it belongs in the Lunar Precon deck. And just thought it'd be great to have our boys, if you will, with us here in this live stream.
So I think we have time for two more questions here.
Sure.
These are kind of these are kind of breaking down some stuff with our sets. You had mentioned that you kind of wanted to explore releasing one set every 5 months or so.
Mhm.
Sir Fishslayer is asking regarding these sets, what are our plans as far as set size? Are you looking at keeping them all consistently about the same size or exploring options for like one big set and then a smaller complementary set?
Mhm.
So I don't know how much you want to explore with that
Yeah,
question,
I
but
will say, I think so. Ours, our plan already, because we're already working on set two, and we're already actually poking at set three in development. Um, our My goal is to actually increase the size of the sets. The first set, we because it's a new game, because of the ambition of fully developing it, fully printing it. It's not very large. I will say I believe it's the right size for the limitation of three alliances. So there's three colors, there's three alliances. Um, I won't give you an exact number. I'll just say it is north of 100 cards. Um, but set two will probably be deeper into the 100s in terms of set size. And as we introduce more alliances, if you will, which means the booster boxes are more divvied up among those colors and alliances, um, we'll produce, I think, larger and larger set sizes to kind of accommodate what we need to accommodate for a cohesive set. Also, looking into limited as a play again. We love our limited play around here, so we want to make sure that the set size is big enough to kind of facilitate multi alliances beyond just having three alliances.
okay. And one more that I thought was kind of a good question. I finally kind of worked out what Will Jackson was, I think, trying to say
Uh,
from the Discourse server. He's basically saying that we have only seen the public has only seen the card available in the pre-con set, and he's asking regarding the full set. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff they haven't seen. How will the pack composition? Uh, how will we kind of be doing the pack composition as far as how many cards per pack and rarity of
mm,
the cards per pack, and is it guaranteed one foil per pack
mm,
or no foils per pack? So, without delving too much into things,
mhm.
is there anything we can share regarding how these cards, rarities, foils, and all that will be distributed
Sure.
in the full set when it comes out?
Um, so we've already, I think, announced, if you will. I think it was in the last Q&A.
Hmm.
The box size and the pack composition. So it's not really new information to the public. And this information will most likely change in future sets. Again, if sets are larger, there may be more packs per box. There may be more cards per pack. But for the beginning set, each there will be 24 packs per box. There will be 10 cards per pack, and the breakout will be five common per pack, three uncommon per pack, a rare, and then a token or slot. So there will be 24 packs in a box. There will be 20 packs that are going to contain one of the token cards. So there's ants, there's beetles, and there's worms. Um, three and three packs out of a box will have a cosmic rare in addition to the rare. So we'll swap out a token for that. And there will be one pack in a box that's going to have a secret rare instead of a token in its slot. We're kind of taking a page out of old Pokemon where, yes, you are going to be guaranteed a foil in each pack. That's because anything that is at rarity, rare or higher, is going to be foiled out. So yes, you'll have at least a rare per pack. You'll have at least a foil per pack. and there's a small possibility that a pack will have something beyond a rare, and so it will be two foils in a pack.
Okay, and I think we have one more question. I think that's probably, but I saw one last one pop up in the chat. Um, they're asking, Tim Fendre is asking, will original art pieces be sold? But I think because a lot of our artwork is digital,
Mm,
obviously people love the artwork. Everyone's a
mm,
big fan of the artwork. Let's expand on that question and just answer how will fans, I'm sure a lot of this is up to the artist, but how will fans be able to possibly get a hold of some of their most favorite prints or pieces of
mm,
artwork from the game?
sure. So I will say that due to the overall aesthetic of Shard Bugs being a comic book, um, not that you can't get a comic book feel with traditional ink and like physical art, if you will. But just because of us being in a fit in a we're being efficient as a small startup, we'd like to use our art assets in many ways. Um, when these artists are still hand making all this art, but when they do it using the digital software Procreate or something similar to that, they're able to illustrate in layers and whatnot. What that allows us to do, it facilitates selective foiling better, having something drawn digitally in layers. It facilitates being able to use that art assets in other ways, maybe on the website or other digital media and marketing. Um, but that doesn't mean that there's zero hand painted art in the first set. The three avatars, the avatars that come in your precons, were actually hand painted by ZipDraw. We also have an artist. Some of you may know him. His name is Steve. He may go by Centerpoint in some discords. He hand painted his pieces. Um, he retains those pieces. Reach out to him if you'd like to, possibly acquire one. All of the artists also have the rights to make prints of their pieces. So you can definitely look at, reaching out to any of the artists in the team and asking them maybe about a print or whatnot. Um, I will say this. I think this is Beans, but I think Jeeps will be okay with this. Beans. Um, the three cosmic avatars that were hand painted by Zip Draws will be available on the Kickstarter. It will be probably the highest tier we have.
Ooh,
So there's only three. Don't don't get overly upset. Um, but yeah, I think it would be. I personally think it'd be wrong if I held on to those personally. I think I would most enjoy it sharing it with the community. So yes, there will be a chance during the Kickstarter to acquire an original piece of art.
there we go. All right, and I think that's it. Any last things that you might want to share yourself or
Yeah, let's
comment on
so
with
that's
the
the
community?
Q&A. Probably just go give a little updates on just some happenings, if you will, with the game. Um I will say we added a new artist to the roster. We're kind of finishing up his first piece for the game. And when we have that asset finalized, we'll kind of more formally introduce that person on our Facebook, IG, and Discord community. So we got a new artist. That's fantastic. Um, Set two, all the cards mechanically have been developed. We're actually going to be moving into the playtest session for set two here shortly. I believe Kevmo, if you haven't already announced it, you will be doing it shortly
I
about
will.
grabbing a new round of playtesters and maybe incorporating some of the existing playtesters. So yeah, so we're going to be moving into playtesting set two as early as in 2 or 3 weeks from now. So that's exciting. Set two art assets have already begun. Um, we have a really cool Kickstarter video in development now, which I think you guys will love. So that's being worked on now. Um, Set three, the comic books, the scripts have been fleshed out. We have two comic books that are actually um in production now. And little fun fact here. This is an Easter egg, but it's not too big of a one. Um, is it has been asked before. Will the comic book be available during the Kickstarter? Yes, there will be a print of comic books available during the Kickstarter, so you guys can obtain a physical form of that comic. Um, there will be one page in that comic book that is a sneak peek at the second comic coming up. So, if you like those that just kind of are dying for some more beans, be sure to pick up a physical copy of that comic book and take a little glimpse into the future with that. Um, and again, if you are in the Florida area, especially if you're in the southern Florida area, um, Collecticon Miami slash Fort Lauderdale will be March 29th and 30th. We will have a booth there. We will be doing learn and plays there. We will have Collecticon promos. So that's the thing. And so if you're a little bit of those types that are completionists, if you will, um, swing by and grab one of those really cool promos. Also, we are going to have, we're actually in the middle of our biggest giveaway to date. Um,
Yes, I was going to mention that.
so right now, it started, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it's going to continue until the day before the Kickstarter goes live. So March 28th. If you invite folks into the Discord community, we have a way of tracking who invites who. So if you have friends that you think would enjoy the games or other players, invite them to the Discord. Help us grow the community. There's going to be over 40 prizes that we're going to award at the end of this giveaway. Everything from playmats to cards to just everything. I think even tumblers we're announcing. So
Hmm.
posters and a bunch of goodies. So if you want to be, I think even some booster boxes. So yeah, if you guys are like me and enjoy some free stuff every once in a while, it only costs you some friend invites and also to kind of help support the cause and grow the Sharp Bugs communities because the more players we bring into our community, the more players we can play against, if you will, and the better the success for the whole project is. So,
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted here because I'm reading the chat, and I guess behind me, my partner had tried her very hardest to stay out of the camera for this one. She was trying to stay out of the camera view, so you saw her kind of crawling behind to get to the restroom.
yeah.
So she tried so hard, but people were calling me out on that one. Thought that was
Okay.
funny. But
So
yeah, I just
actually,
wanted
we
to.
also before we wrap this up, um, last Q&A we had an after party, right? So on this Q&A, we're gonna have an after party too. This after
Great.
party, folks who um, submitted either prior to the live or questions that were answered during the live, we will be entering your name in a spin wheel. So shortly after the conclusion of this live, we'll do a live spin wheel on Discord, and I have a playmat here. We're giving out two. I have one,
Yes.
and Jeeps has one in his hands. So this playmat here is pretty special. The reason is this is a pre-production sample. Now, what's special is it's the only one of its kind. Okay, why is the Shardbucks logo is in the center of the playmat. So the art, you'll see the art in other playmats. So the art's not unique, but the placement of this logo in the beginning in the first edition, we only made one like this, and then we decided to move the logo to the upper right. So I even went ahead and um, I even wrote sample 1 of 1 and my signature there and a nice, awesome silver marker. So your name will be entered. You can win this really cool playmat, have some bragging rights. And then Jeeps also has another pre-production sample neoprene playmat. And also, so this is an American company that we partnered up with. Um, it is very thick, I think 3 mil. The quality of the playmat is fantastic. Feels nice and smooth, like a good neoprene should be. We believe the print quality is really good, very vibrant, and then it's just very cushiony. It's very thick. It's very premium feeling. So it's got a fantastic edge stitch on it, and we had these produced because, like everything we do, we always require samples, and we want to kind of see, touch, feel, and make sure that the product is to the kind of the standards we want. But instead of having these pre-production samples just kind of sit on a shelf and collect dust, I think the community would enjoy it. So we'll be giving a couple of these out. That's pretty
There you
cool.
go.
Also, one other thing
But
in the after stream post party, we have a couple of production videos that we're gonna show of actual products being printed, if you will. So I think Jeeps will drop that in the general channel there of the Discord, and get you some sneak peeks and spill some beans there. So
there you go. Well, cool. I think it's safe to say that this was fun. I very much appreciate everybody who tuned in. I think at one point it looked like we had, at the time this was live, about 19 to 20 viewers, which
uh
is
huh,
pretty great. We had a lot of people in the chat. Thank you again to everybody who asked questions in the live chat as well as in the Discord server. Like we said, don't forget to hit that notification for the Kickstarter and go ahead and try to invite some people in. Like Lewis had mentioned, we are doing the biggest giveaway. I believe 41 winners for prizes for that giveaway.
absolutely.
So make sure you're participating in that one. And yeah, on that, just thank you to everybody. Thank you, Lewis, for having me back on for the second live from the Hive Q&A video. This was fun.
Absolutely. And yes, and take a make sure you keep your notifications on, especially on the announcement. We'll probably have a couple of more of these Q&As before the actual Kickstarter going live. So if you have any questions that maybe we didn't answer here, there'll be future chances for some of those questions to be answered.
I think we'll put a link to join the Discord server somewhere in the notes, the
Yep,
comments, or something for anybody who does want to come into the Shardbugs community Discord server. A lot of fun stuff going on in there. A lot of opportunities for giveaways, contests, raffles, stuff like that. And you will be amongst the first to hear about new stuff being announced and new stuff, coming out. Those beans getting spilled. So yeah, come on and join in. It's a fun hive
yeah,
we got going.
absolutely. And also shardbugstcg.com, our website.
There you go.
Bunch of good information there, but there's also a link to our Discord. Let's say if you're not currently in the Discord now, you're watching this video either live or at some future time, um, go to shardbugstcg.com and there will be a link to the Discord there as well.
Okay.
Okay.
With that, we want to call it.
We'll call it. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out with Kev and myself, and hopefully we see you in the hive, so to speak, which was what we're called the Discord, for the fun after party, if you will, and give away some stuff and watch some cool production videos.
There you go. All right.
All
Bye,
right, guys.
everybody.
Good night.